I want to ask, Mr. Speaker, that you allow me a few minutes to just put in my 2 pence, so to speak, into this value-added tax bill. Before going any further, I just want to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, you see, because some talk came out earlier today to do with the value-added tax team and who was whose cousin and so on, after saying certain things about these bright young people. And I want to make it clear that I'm putting it on record, Mr. Speaker, that I am thanking, I'm expressing gratitude to the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Member for Number 6, the Financial Secretary, Mrs. Harris, the Controller of Inland Revenue, Mrs. Williams, the leader of the VAT team, Mr. Gift, who has been here with us for most of this debate, the entire VAT team, Mr. Speaker, for the tremendous volume of work that they have been handling ever since the team was set up. Whenever it was set up, whether it was set up long enough, too short, almost right, not right, I'm not getting into that, Mr. Speaker. The point is that these people, these young people, some of them less young than others, have worked very hard. And we should be proud of them as Kittitians and divisions. And in the midst of all of this debate, if, as is on target now, we meet that November 1st deadline and we get this VAT properly implemented as we expect that we will, it will be because, again, young Kittitians and divisions have been able to show that we are capable of handling our own issues and finding our own solutions with the leadership of this government and the members on this side of the Honourable House. When all is said and done, Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt in my mind that the general election ended 6 months ago. Almost. If you listen to the members opposite, and I noticed that as soon as I start to speak, they've cleared the halls. I must ask my wife if my breath smells bad or something. Mr. Speaker, I just want to make sure that this country is reminded, and especially the members opposite, that the general election ended nearly 6 months ago.
Exactly.
And that the voters put Labour back into office. The 2010 election campaign is therefore over. Some of them didn't want it to end. They were so busy campaigning that they didn't know how to get votes. But the point is, Mr. Speaker, that it is high time that members opposite come to grips with the fact that they have been voted into opposition, not into government.
You understand that?
And that this government has shown repeatedly that we are not just capable, but that we are inclusive, that we are prepared to listen, and we're prepared to respond accordingly. That is why the people put Denzil Douglas and his team back into office. Mr. Speaker, that's a simple truism. The people chose a government that they felt would look out for the best interests of all of the people, and particularly protect the interests of those that are most vulnerable and most needy. The track record is there. Mr. Speaker, why then does the opposition have to come in here and continue the election campaign? Why then does the opposition have to come in here in such an important economic debate, such an important national transformation watershed in terms of tax reform, and spend all this time talking about what Pam did 15 years ago, trying to put a spin on stuff that most people in this country don't forget and want to forget? We are talking about today and the future, Mr. Speaker. But just to pull a few things out of the bag. For instance, the leader of the opposition, the honorable leader of the opposition, he was speaking just now about in 1997, government take consumption tax and put it on top of duty and so on. Mr. Speaker, my information tells me that there again is an example of how they go about not telling all of the truth. That came about because the government, the customs department at the time, was simply complying with an international standard.
Exactly, and that is a fact.
The government at the time was simply complying with a standard. In other words, the importers of goods had been getting away without a system in place which should have been in place. And you know, Mr. Speaker, this business about getting away. The honorable leader of the opposition is a member of the legal fraternity. There are a number of service providers, including members of the legal fraternity, who he himself admitted have been getting away without paying traders' tax. Consumption tax. Mr. Speaker, the member for number 8 admitted today, right in here, I got up on a point of order to clarify that that's what he was saying. And he repeated it, that I was in fact correct in my interpretation. That insurance companies have in fact been passing on a tax which they should not have been passing on. Every one of the speakers to date on the opposite side, Mr. Speaker, have been coming in here and speaking on behalf of the business community. They're more concerned about the business community than they are about the so-called poor people that they say they're speaking about. Let's take the member for number 5. The member for number 5 admitted today that the issue of inflation is going to be determined by the business community. He pulled an example from a VAT brochure that he referred to, which has been published by the same VAT team at the time when he spoke about the VAT team as being laughable, which he subsequently corrected to say it wasn't the team that was laughable, it was the work that they had done was laughable. So you interpret that. The point is, Mr. Speaker, that a document that I have in my hand here, which lists several such examples prepared by the VAT team, and we could spend all day picking examples. The move of the bill said from the beginning that there will be several examples that will show a price reduction and others that will show a price increase. We have said that over here. Nobody over here said that this is going to result in a reduction in the cost of living. This government will do everything to ensure that it does not result in an increase in the cost of living. And that if it does increase in a significant cost, if it does result in a significant cost of living increase, the government will go back to the drawing board and adjust it. Just like 2 years ago, when that same basket of goods was put together. Mr. Speaker, I had the privilege of being in cabinet on several meetings when that basket of goods was being prepared. It was in response to a particularly risky period of inflationary global activity relative to price increases in fuel and the imported inflation for food that resulted. The government responded very, very, very quickly and pulled this basket, a basket which members opposite ridiculed at length across the country, in the paper, on the radio, etc. And a basket of food that they're now saying is good. So, Mr. Speaker, that is why the people of this country chose the people of Labour and NRP to come onto these benches and put the people of PAM on the other benches.